this. All right. So what I have here is a pinch pot that I went through and kind of tried to very quickly get it done. But I, come on in. Hey, Brooke. Huh?
You said I could throw.
Oh yeah, go ahead. It's fine. Okay. So when you smooth these things out, there's lots of different steps. So this is one I've smoothed out pretty well here, but I want to point out that right here and up through here and right through there, that's not quite good enough. We're going to be really picky on these. I've got a big scratch in here. Okay, so I'm going to show you on the next one. I'm going to set that aside. Here's the other half that I'm working on. So I already kind of cinched that in. You can see where that happened. What I'm going to do is hold this off on the edge. Now, these banding wheels are really nice because you can get to the edge of this, and those are back there on a shelf. Just be careful when you pick them up. Some of them, the bottoms are made to drop out of the bottom of them, and so we want to save your toes. So always pick them up from the base too. And you can't store these on the banding wheels because we just need every class to have access to them, but they're nice to work with. So if you want to try them out, what you're going to do, and I've shown you this before, but a reminder that you use the steel scraper. You place your hand on the inside to really make sure that you're providing some stability on the back end of this so that the walls aren't moving back and forth too much. When the walls start to move back and forth a bunch, they start cracking and getting worn out. Clay does get worn out over time if we're moving it around too much. So I'm taking every swipe that I'm doing it a couple times in a couple different ways. See this right there? I'm having trouble getting into that. That's a little scratchy mark that I don't know if you can see it that well or not, but I'm going to take my finger. I'm going to use the inside to push that out so I can get to it. So then the next step is smoothing this all out. There's a lot of steps, you guys. Clay can be fun, but it doesn't mean that it's something that we can just kind of go after casually. We have to clean, we have to focus on different areas and do a good job. Okay. The other thing I want to mention while I have this pinch pot like this is some of you I've been seeing you pinch up like this a bunch and you're doing this all over the pinch pot. Well, that's going to crack it and it gets all flimsy, and we don't want that at all. That's not good. What we want instead is a rim that looks like this, nice and even all the way around. Alright, so I'm going to cut that off just because, showing you what not to do, so I don't want it on mine. And also, the banding wheel is good for cutting this down, because remember, we want to have the edges even-ish. They don't have to be perfect, but they should be sort of even because we're going to join them together. Okay. Now, joining them together, what we're going to do is score and slip. Does anyone know what those words mean yet? Scoring is scratching up the surface. Okay, so just like if you've ever painted a piece of furniture, or your parents have, or painted a car or anything like that, you want to sand the surface. You want to scratch it up a little bit so the thing that you're adding to it is going to stick. And that's the same concept here. So we are going to add one piece of clay to another, and we want to ensure that it will stick together pretty well. So what I'm going to do is take this steel scraper and scrape this around the edge here. And then I'm going to use some slip. Now, this slip, it's all in these containers, and it's on the half wall over there. And so if you can look that way, kind of behind first period shelf, they're on that half wall. So all of these supplies are back there. So when you open this up, just kind of give it a stir. The paintbrushes are over there too. We use specific paintbrushes for the slip. And what this is just clay, the clay that we use for everything in here. It's that type of clay mixed with water. and it's our glue in this world here. I'm going to also score the other part too, and then I'm going to join them together. I'm going to check this out and check everything and make sure the walls are kind of touching nicely everywhere. So like that one, that was kind of wanting to go on the inside, so I'm going to adjust that. Shove that in a little bit so more of the surface of that rim is touching everywhere. Okay, so that's just the beginning. Now what we need to do is roll out a coil, and we're going to close that seam up. So this is unlike what I talked to you guys about during the practice version of this. I just had you join them, which is your finger on there, just for, working quickly and just figuring out some basic things. But on this, when we do the real version of this, and remember, keep in mind that I did not smooth this out the way it should have been. I'm just going a little quicker because of the demo. And I'll show you the one from first period. Yeah, that's a little bit more refined. So I'm rolling this out. Well, I don't want it to be too thick. And I also don't need a big, super long coil, but I want to make sure it wraps all the way around this part without using a bunch of different pieces. I want to use one long coil. That's just going to be cleaner that way. So I'm going to do this. This is pretty long, but I'm going to just start wrapping it, and I'll see where I end up. Because then I know, whoops, my extra is right here. All right. Now, if I start really pushing on this and shoving this into the seam, what's going to happen? Yeah, it's going to collapse. It's going to all warp because this isn't airtight in here yet. So what I'm going to do instead is go through and very gently take, in this case, my thumb I'm using. I guess you can use whatever you want. I'm going to take this and shove that into the vessel that way, and then go down the other way. So I'm doing a little bit at a time, trying not to cave that in. Okay, that's what it looks like right now. And by golly, some of you are going to say, oh, I like it just like that. Can I keep it like that? No. The answer is no. Don't even ask. That's the easy way out. We want something done nicer than that. That is not a design choice. That's just something that happened throughout the process of that. Not necessarily that that's always a bad thing, but in this case it is, because we're going to avoid the temptation to just do as little as possible in here, okay? Now, so I'm going to come over here and pull the one from first period, which is in a little bit further along shape. So here's this one. Now you can see where I have this coil, what was from before. Here's what I did to it. If I were to have taken this and tried to scrape this, it would just come right off. It wouldn't work very well. So what you're going to do to flatten this out, how I achieved that kind of a look over there on that one, is I just very carefully went around and tapped that down. Potentially at this point, you should have an airtight seal. And so you can warp this, but it won't be collapsing at this point, or shouldn't be. If it does, what happens? You need to start over, which is fine. Sometimes our first attempt isn't the one we keep or should keep. Okay, so, whoops, I took that and I tapped that around like that. And that's how I got this guy. So from here now that that's all sewn up tight and buttoned up tight, and this is a little bit drier, now I can take my steel scraper, go in lots of different directions. It's going to take a little bit of extra effort to really get that ridge from that coil done. And then I'm going to do like that. This is where I really like the banding wheel as well, because you can kind of move it into the steel scraper. Now, do you see that? I'm not going to be satisfied with that. That's not good enough. So I'm going to take my finger over every little scar and divot and do the best I can to get this. One other thing that I did that you see down here is I did a little poster foot here. Now I may or may not keep this on, but if you want to, you could just take a look. And this is just a coil I wrapped around and I set down on here. Now I didn't score and slip it, so it's not permanent currently. If I wanted it to be a permanent part of it, then I would score and slip it. But there's that too. Okay, so that's all the information I'm going to give you today. By Friday and Monday, or by tomorrow and Friday, probably work days, and Monday I'll start showing you the next stuff. Okay, thank you guys. Go.